Olivia, as a fellow Aussie, I'm really proud of your triumph tonight at this premiere because the reaction has been absolutely fantastic, and I know that everyone from down under would really like to know that our girl has really done well for us.
Beauty, thank you.
Where did you see the Grease for the first time on stage?
I saw it in London about 7 years ago, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. So it stuck in my mind.
You know, Sandy's a very naive character. Were you ever that naive?
Oh, definitely. yes, I'm sure I was. It's a long time ago, but I was.
Could you elaborate on that a little?
I'm sure every 14, 15-year-old girl goes through sort of things that Sandy in the movie went through. I was never mixed up with quite such heavy girls as I was in this film, but I was pretty naive, yeah.
Did you know John Travolta before the beginning of the film?
No, I didn't. In fact, I met him for the first time when he came out to the house to discuss the part.
When you were in high school, what kind of music did you listen to?
I think I was influenced by folk music mostly when I was younger. It was Joan Baez and we think who else? Joan Baez and Ray Charles, Nina Simone, the sort of influences I had.
Really, and the most personal question, because this is no one, not that person. To see yourself on the big screen tonight for the first time was a very exciting premiere that really goes back to the old Hollywood premieres. How did you feel about it?
Well, I'd sort of adjusted to seeing myself from going to dailies and things and going to see the filming over a long period of time. But to sit there in an audience of people that I didn't know and wait for their reaction was very strange. It was very frightening, to tell you the truth.
I first saw Grease on the stage on Broadway in the early 70s, and I had this vision of how to do this as a movie.
And Alan Carr had taken an option on it, and he'd been shopped it around all the studios, and they all turned it down. And when I saw John Travolta, I thought, he's a movie star. And I put my money where my mouth was and offered him a 3-picture deal. And the first one I used him in was Saturday Night Fever. And I thought, Grease would be an ideal second film, so I did a deal with Alan to acquire the rights. He became co-producer with me, and that's how it kicked off. And Randal Kleiser, I took a chance on. He'd never directed a feature, but he'd directed John in Boy in a Plastic Bubble.
I directed John Travolta in Boy in the Plastic Bubble, and when he was signed to do a 3-picture deal at Paramount, he asked for me to direct one of his movies.
So I had a great rapport with Randal already, so I trusted him. So then I just had to trust that he could make a movie musical, and the thing that Randal did, I felt that was key, and as he let us lead the way a lot. I remember wanting to go back to the script, the Broadway script a lot, and he didn't disagree, and it was really the correct thing to do.
For me, the hardest part of making the movie was staying true to what I felt Grease was really about, that it was about a pretty tough high school, because I felt that that's what would translate. And I talked to Randal at some length, and I said, I want to keep the high school grittiness of experience in it, and I think we did. Yes, it got a little sugar-coated here and there, but I think we did.
Well, I liked the stage production very much. I felt it had to be done differently. You can't take a play and put it right on the screen because film is a different medium.
A lot of people have tried to make stage plays, and on film, if they look like stage plays, they usually don't make it. So we needed to make it look like a film, make it live the life of a film, and not look like just a stage play.
John was such a big star when I first worked with him, and he suddenly became a huge star. The energy that he had from being this persona in his early days was perfect for Danny Zuko because he was very charismatic and likable.
He didn't play sexy, he was sexy. You know, he didn't try to make you feel attracted to him. You just were attracted to him.
When I did the play, I got to do Duty, which is a smaller character. and a more innocent, naive character. And I always wanted to play Danny, but I wasn't old enough yet in the play to do that.
Well, I think it's one of his all-time best performances. He had this charisma, and he knew that character inside out. He just had a great grip on this, and he was amazing. I knew of Olivia Newton-John, though I'd never met her and never knew anything about her. And then I was at Helen Reddy's house for dinner one night, and she was sitting across from me.
And apparently he was entertained by me. I was always clowning around and making faces, and so he asked me would I be interested in playing Sandy. And so I said, yes, I'd be interested, but I really would like to do a screen test to see if I'm any good and to see if the casting with the male lead is going to work.
The reason I wanted Olivia in this was because at that time, every guy's dream was to have Olivia Newton-John as their girlfriend. And I'll tell you, I was the same way. And to me, it gave the piece more validity.
So she requested a screen test. Normally, the studio requests a screen test. In this case, she said, I'll do the movie if I do a test and I feel comfortable. So we did a test. It was the scene in the drive-in.
Johnny was very sweet and very helpful to me and made me feel really comfortable because he was much more experienced at acting than I was. And it just felt right.
Screen test was sensational, and she felt very comfortable. And I wanted her voice as well, because we really needed a beautiful voice.
She was Sandy Dombrowski, was the original cast name, and she was American. I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to act, and I have to think of an American accent. I don't know that I can do this. So they very graciously made her an Aussie.
Sandy! Danny? What are you doing here?
Well, Jeff Conway was from the Broadway show and was in it for many years.
Very interesting story. I played Danny originally. Then they asked me to stay on as understudy for the 9 roles. And the only role I never played was Kaniki.
Well, because Jeff Conway had played Danny Zuko on Broadway, he knew the play really well and became like an equal to John in a way.
When I first got a call from my agent that they were casting Grease, they said, well, go to Paramount. When you come into a major studio, there's a booth with a security guy, and it's pretty small. But I saw on his desk like a stack of fat scripts. So I said to him, I need to read the script. I don't know what this, I'm auditioning tomorrow. I have to know what the character's about. He said, all right, come here. And I went under the table, which is, come to think of it, kind of weird because he's standing there and I'm like at his knees, and I read the script.
Well, when we were casting for Frenchie, we had people in, but the moment Didi Khan walked in, we stopped looking because we just knew she was Frenchie. She was perfect. Her squeaky voice and her attitude and her character was just right, and so we all just jumped at her.
Sandy, why don't we go into the bathroom? My mother will kill me if I get blood all over the carpet. What?
Alan Carr was a friend of mine at the time and sort of unofficially manager of mine. And I remember him saying to me, I'm having a lot of trouble casting Rizzo. And I said, yeah. And then there was this weird silence at the other end of the phone. And I said, what? I said, Alan, are you still there? And he said, what are you doing this afternoon? And he had this brainstorm, and I went over to Paramount that afternoon. And I walked in, and there was Randal Kleiser and Pat Burge, and it was done. And I went to work Monday morning. When we shot her solo, There Are Worse Things I Could Do, I was really impressed at how she was able to bring so much emotion into that song. And if you watch it carefully, you know, she really does a great job of showing you all these emotions as she sings the song. There was great chemistry among the cast, and I think it's because of two things. One, a lot of them had worked together on Broadway doing the play, so they knew the characters and they knew where the laughs were. The second thing was that we had 5 weeks of rehearsal.
And the first day we started, we didn't have a rehearsal or a read-through. We had a sock hop. So everybody came and got to know each other.
It was like going to high school your first day. So they pulled us all in together, and we all had to sink or swim, and we'd have a lot of, circle dances and this and that and the other. So you were kind of forced to be going back to some big high school.
That's where Alan was particularly good with the cast and the cameo people, keeping their spirits up, which was Well, it helps tremendously.
Alan Carr was a different kind of producer. He was a hands-on, and the spirit of the film, as far as I'm concerned, came from Alan Carr.
Alan was really alive, and he would come to the set and give us pep talks and get us going, and he really was a motivating force. Because really the energy that was in the cast is what you feel and see on screen, and it was really important, and he obviously realized that.
After about 2 days, we saw how terrific the musical numbers were going to be. So we sent a notice around to the studio that you're welcome to come in and watch.
On one of the sound stages at Paramount, they set up all the sets for the major numbers, and we performed them for all the executives at Paramount, which was great because we got that energy, performance energy.
It was great morale for the studio and certainly for our kids.
In the play, it was originally Kenickie singing the song Grease Lightning, but because we had John Travolta and he was a big star, we switched it over to John. And this happened several times to Jeff, unfortunately, because he was now no longer playing Danny, and I think it was, it must have been difficult for him.
Hey, Danny, we've been friends a long time, right? Yeah.
The scene where John and I hug and comb our hair and everything, I knew something was wrong with that scene right from the very beginning. And I thought, well, what is the scene about? I said, oh my God, it's a love scene between two guys. I mean, Kenickie, tough-ass Kenickie, is asking Danny, would you be there for me? And in the 50s, that wasn't easy for guys to do. And so then I thought, well, what would happen when they have that interchange and they don't know what to do with those feelings? They hit each other. That's the only kind of male contact you can have. They hit each other. And then before they know it, they hug. And then they go, holy crap, what did I just do? And they whip out their combs and go, that's cool.
Well, listen, I'll pick you up at 3, huh?
Well, let's put it this way. Jeff insisted that when I had a hickey from Kenickie, that he give it to me himself. That to me was very Jeff to do that. So that was a real hickey from Kenickie.
There was a scene between Rizzo and I, and it was after she throws the milkshake in Kenickie's face.
We call it the Marty Scorsese scene because it's this real heavy, ugly fight between them. It was very well acted, but it was from a different picture.
I shot it, hated it, and that was about it. Off we went.
So that's the only thing that we didn't use.
No use crying over spilled milkshake.
Well, shooting Beauty School Dropout was a lot of fun because I had worked as an extra on Fireball 500, a movie that starred Frankie Avalon, and just a few years later I was on a soundstage shooting him as this teen angel. And I remember that Didi Khan was enamored by Frankie Avalon. She really liked him, and you can see it in her eyes when she does that number with him.
I did a lot of work with my coach, my drama coach, on, this my dream come true. Somebody's going to help me, and this guy is going to come. And we worked on my reactions and blah, blah, blah. Well, all I had to do was see Frankie Avalon coming down the stairs in this tight white suit singing to me. There was no acting anymore. And Frankie Avalon told me whenever he plays anywhere, the most popular song requested is Beauty School Dropout. That's what they want to hear. Now, they did want to put a blue wig on me for the carnival scene. And you'll see a shot of cotton candy, and the idea would match my hair. And the principal will say, Frenchie, why is your hair blue? And from the blonde, I went into a swimming pool, it turned blue, and I put my foot down. I said, don't make me into a joke. So now you see Marty holding the cotton candy.
Well, Olivia and John, her character, it was very clear that she had to look a certain way for it to pay off at the end when she becomes one of the girls. And so she was always really the most period of them all, the looser skirts, the higher necks, to look as fresh and dewy as possible, so that at the end, it was very clear that we had to go totally against that.
When we went to wardrobe and they found these pants that were really from the 50s. I mean, they were really thick lycra, and I was sewn into them because the zip was broken or something. So I got dressed in the outfit that we'd chosen and went out around the crew.
She didn't tell us what she was doing. And when she came out of the trailer with that hairdo and those pants, I mean, people just, the whole crew and everyone just applauded.
And I was getting all these kind of looks and kind of murmurs and whistles, and I'm going, I'm doing something wrong. What's going on? I should have been doing this a long time ago.
Robert Stigwood was a genius in terms of music, and he had done the whole Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. And he was the one who came up with the idea of using the Bee Gees to write the title song of Grease.
It was during the editing process this dawned on me. I thought, Barry. I said, listen, Barry, I need a title song called Grease. Oh, he said, hell, Rob, Grease. What a word. And then he hung up. Half an hour later, he called me back and said, how does Grease is the word grab you? That's it.
And it was going to be in the end credits, but it was like almost too good to put them there, and it didn't quite fit. And we kept figuring out what to do with it and where to put it. And I said, why don't we put it against the cartoon? And it was like written for the cartoon. It was just a magic coincidence.
In the play, there's a musical number called It's Raining on Prom Night, and Sandy sings that. And we all felt that that song was nice, but it wasn't as exciting as something else we could write.
And I needed a big ballad for her, so Hopelessly Devoted came out of it.
I'm always shocked when I meet people who tell me their 5- and 6-year-old love Grease, because, I mean, there's a lot of sexual things happening in there.
It was a little sexier than I thought, seeing it recently again. I thought, we got away with some things I didn't realize we had.
It broke.
How could it break?
The studio didn't really think it was going to be a huge hit. Grease was this little teen musical that would, come and go very quickly.
We did have a sneak preview. In the cartoon started, they were laughing at the cartoon. So we were off and running. I mean, it just got better and better and better.
And I remember hearing Frankie Valli singing that, and there was this ripple of excitement. And then that first big production number, whoosh, it was just like a big wave hitting a beach when you sat in the movie theater. It was really thrilling.
And the rush in doing it, you're really not quite sure both what you have and what you're doing. It was only later when it was all, I finally saw it all together, and I thought, that's when it became something else.
The premiere was held at Groundland's Chinese Theater, where the streets were lined with people. They were screaming and yelling, because John was a big star from Saturday Night Fever at that point.
I remember there were a lot of people lining the carpet, and it was a little chaotic and very exciting.
I can't tell you how many people were out there. It was huge. It was like they were hanging off the buildings.
It was true pandemonium. It was like those films you see of the premieres of yesteryear, when the streets were mobbed with people with bleachers and the red carpet walking everybody in. It was one of the most exciting nights of my life.
Afterwards, we went from the premiere to a soundstage at Paramount, where they had a TV special lined up. Alan had done that. He was quite a showman. And when we were pulling up to Paramount Studios for the premiere party and TV special, Rip Taylor was there throwing confetti as the cars went in. I thought, what's all this about? But to have a TV special for the premiere party was really a toast to Alan. He knew how to get the word out and how to push things. He was like the P.T. Barnum of his era.
At the time, in the business, this movie was not appreciated. And whereas the audiences went nuts for it, and they still are, everybody in the business was sort of puzzled by its success. I remember that very strong, and it was kind of dismissed, but it wouldn't go away. And it just kept making money. And then when the video thing happened, of course, it was huge. And it was all over the world. It was huge.
We had a 20-year reunion in 1998, and it was really like going back to high school. And the audience was so pumped. They had seen it on DVD many, many, many times. And this is the first time many of them had seen it on a big screen. And so they came dressed in costumes, sort of like the way they used to do for a Rocky Horror Picture Show. And they knew all the lyrics. They sang along with the lyrics. When Hopelessly Devoted came on, they lit all these lighters like at a rock concert. That was probably the most rewarding thing that's ever happened to me.
There was nothing that was difficult about this movie. It was like a pleasure from the first day to the last day. It was a big party, and we all have remained friends. It was like a real family.
Randal somehow captured the innocence of that period, and then the cast just colored it in, you know, and gave it its color, gave it its flavor. You know, we loved being with each other. You know, we really, truly loved being with each other. I couldn't wait to get to work.
Even though it was a fun movie, all of the actors really gave all they could to the film. And, you know, Grease has become one of the most successful movie musicals of all time.
It's very hard to have a hit film, you know, the odds are stacked up against you. And when it happens, it is tremendous. And so very, very happy memories all round.
For me personally, I've done, I think, more than 70 films by now. That's the one movie that people go, oh, you did Grease. So it just keeps going.
What really strikes me is how strange it is that this movie still works for young people and adults and different cultures. I mean, it seems to work in every country.
I do think Grease will play, regardless of the decade, anywhere, because of the absolute truth of the relationships in it. I don't think it would work as just rock and roll songs.
I feel very, very fortunate to be a part of something that brings happiness to people.
There's that element that makes it click that you can't see, and it's nothing tangible, and if it was, we'd all make films like that all the time. There was just this magical quality in this movie that's made it last for so long, and it's the most successful film I've been in, probably will ever be in, and that's enough. That's great. You know, I've left my mark on celluloid somewhere, and I feel very lucky.